I jolted awake, lifting my head off the crunchy plastic pillow covered by a pillowcase, black and tan smudges of my makeup smearing the white fabric, my tears making a mess of someone who was supposed to have it all together. The room, it smelled of rubbing alcohol and vomit, and I tried to shield myself from the cold with just a small sheet. As the events from the night before seeped back into my memory, the most overwhelming sense of dread filled my being. What had I done? I froze with terror pumping through my veins. I was an elected official, and if anyone found out I was in rehab, my life was over. It turns out I was right. While I couldn't see it at the time, my life as I knew it was over, just in the best possible way. We all have addictions, and my life has been full of many. My greatest was my need to prove something and be the most successful ever, whatever that even means. That primary addiction and secondary addictions like alcohol defined my time in politics. My hunger to prove something almost driving me to the brink. After 2 suicide attempts, though, I knew something needed to change. Because if it didn't, not only was I going to perpetuate cycles of generational trauma and addiction for my kids, if I was successful in taking my own life, I would make it worse. Depression, both lingering and postpartum, trauma response addictions, chronic PTSD, a tangled web of mental health challenges controlled my life. And for years, I lived in the depths of darkness, all while trying to keep up external appearances of having it all together in my very public role as an elected official. But when life is dark, appearances only get you so far. So I found myself face down in a pillow in a rehab facility. While alcohol was the reason I checked in, the real reason I was there was to write the press release to withdraw from my reelection campaign. Either way, it was the turning point in my healing journey I so desperately longed for, and finally my permission to start quitting politics and my need for success. The big changes, the ones on the outside, that's what people see on the surface. Blowing up my career trajectory as I withdrew from my reelection campaign, that's what everybody talked about. But without knowing the real story, without knowing what was happening inside of me and to me, people couldn't know the small quits, the relinquishing of toxic energy, a buildup of self-compassion, all laying a foundation for transformation. I dreamed for years, and I mean years, of saying, I quit. But even after those fateful few weeks in 2019, it would take me 5 more years working in politics before I could release this belief that that identity, that external identity, was who I was. Years of small quits, small releases, saying no to the systems, habits, and beliefs that kept me disconnected from my soul. Without that, I never would have been brave enough to say, I quit, I need help, and then finally leave it all behind. But this talk, it's not just preaching some process. I've literally undergone a massive transformation, morphing from politician to painter, creating the life I want and need through intentional, purposeful, and sometimes seemingly minuscule acts of self-love. We are the artists of our own lives, and where we put our energy is what we create. This isn't just a feel-good thing either. There's science to back this up. According to dozens of studies and mental health experts, compassion for yourself activates the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for greater emotional control. It also releases dopamine, which makes you feel better. At the same time, it decreases the activity in the amygdala, which then reduces the emotions of fear and anxiety. So it literally makes you feel better and creates a space in your brain open to healing. But it comes through a repetition of self-love acts over time. And while there have been many aspects to my outward transformation, there are 5 key releases that have allowed me to open myself to more self-love, a deeper spiritual practice, and ultimately, that transformative healing. The first release, quit the manufactured disconnection. In Dr. Joanne Hari's book, Lost Connection, she says, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. In the US, everything is designed to make our lives easier, right? You can get everything you need delivered to your door in a brown box: food, clothing, art supplies. You can go to school or work online. You can create your life where interaction with the outside world is virtually intangible. Then add to that the busyness of our existence. One more meeting, one more extracurricular, one more accomplishment. And heck, AI does our critical thinking now. Have we missed the whole point? Early in 2025, my family lived in a small Mexican village for a time, and I became overtly aware of how much the manufactured disconnection gripped my life. Saint Teresa of Avila, a 16th century mystic, said, "God is among the pots and pans." And I found this to be true as I walked from the vegetable stand to the chicken shop, to the bakery, to the tortilleria. Every step, a connection to the presence of my own life. Every step, a prayer, not just to the food, but to the people I interacted with. These small connections fueled and fired my soul. I felt my cells healing. In our need to make things easier, fit more in, are we better off? Are we happier? Your fridge and your calendar are full, but are your spirit and soul longing for something more? Where can you find more joy in the basic aspects of living? Second release, quit people pleasing. Set boundaries. It's not selfish, it's powerful. People pleasing comes from 2 areas. 1, the need to be liked and not disappoint. And 2, what the external world tells us about our value. This is also where our ego can kick in. My ego told me I had to do politics because of the importance and stature, and it was how I was going to change the world. It also had me question, if I wasn't there, who would do the work? But the reality is, the work goes on one way or another. The real question is, will you? Quitting, saying no, it's not an act of weakness. It's a creative act of reinvention. Third release, quit fear-mongering. Have you ever noticed how fear can talk you out of almost anything, especially fear of the unknown? If I quit my re-election campaign, what would I do? If I relinquished an identity I'd held onto for 25 years, who would I be? We stay in places of comfort, even if we're miserable, because it's what we know. But what if instead you made friends with fear? Having a conversation with her, maybe bring your muse in as well. When I started having a dialogue with fear instead of listening to her as absolute truth, everything changed. Fourth release, quit being so hard on yourself. Give yourself grace. We are constantly told we are broken, there is something wrong with us. We don't honor pain or emotions or experience at face value. So when we feel perfectly normal human experiences, we think something's wrong with us, and our inner critic kicks in. I used to say when I was in politics, no one, and I mean no one, could run a better negative campaign against me than the one in my head. Driven by this idea of perfection, when inevitable failures came, I drank to fill the void. But as I relinquished this idea that I had something to prove and leaned into grace, everything changed, and it amplified the power of healing. Start small. Noticing when your brain brings up those cringe moments of life, and whew, I have those. And instead of leaning into shame and guilt, lean into grace. Wrap those memories with love. We are all just doing the best we can. And finally, the fifth release, quit playing the victim. I know, this is where it gets real, that personal responsibility thing. Whew. When I create healing experiences for people, I tell them, I create the container. What you do with it, it's up to you. You can't outsource healing. ChatGPT can't help you with this one because no one can decide that that's your last drink. No one can decide to quit the job that's eating you alive. No one can decide to set boundaries for toxic relationships. And no one can decide to forgive yourself and others but you. You control your destiny. As humans, we are designed to go through hard things and then heal. The hard, that's inevitable. The healing, that's your choice. Start small. Waking up every day with the mantra, today I choose healing. Author and thought leader Brad Stulberg calls this tragic optimism. The belief and the recognition that life is hard, but we can choose optimism and healing anyway. These 5 areas have been crucial and critical to my transformation, but it's come through small, intentional acts over time. Being brave, quitting a life that doesn't serve you, it's not an easy journey. When we look to national and global leaders, so much of the messaging is about staying the course, as quitting is seen as failure. Money and textbook success are what define our worth. But I have come to find that is not true. Seeing people like Simone Biles step back from the greatest stages of competition to focus on her mental health, or Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, relinquishing his billionaire status, putting his company in a trust focused on healing the earth. These are people that understand the power of healing, and they're redefining what success looks like. We all get that opportunity. For me, success now looks like a life with a regulated nervous system. Whew, thank goodness. a whole lot less guilt, fewer toxic addictions, a deep spiritual practice, and fulfilling my desire to change the world simply because I changed my own. I came to understand that I could not impact the collective trauma if I didn't heal my own trauma first. From there, then I could empower others. I would call that a little act that leads to a big impact. As can you imagine a world of healed humans? Healing, it's a lot like the Fibonacci sequence. It starts out slow, but you hit that turning point and it comes faster with greater potency. Little by little, poco a poco, you shift the energy from a space where you're barely surviving, or like me, you end up face down in a pillow in a rehab facility, to a place where you can ride the beautiful flow and feel the amazingness that life is. When we are brave enough to take small releases to activate the power of big healing, it unlocks a door to a life you only dreamed possible.